You ever stop and think, is there anything you can really count on? I mean, in a world where everything we build, our plans, our homes, even entire cities can just be wiped out in a second, what's left? Well, today, we're going to dive into the incredible story of a young woman who lived through that exact nightmare. And what she found? Well, it started a worldwide movement. Let's get into it.
So, for Chiara Lubich, this wasn't some deep philosophical question you ponder over coffee. No, this was her life. We're talking the 1940s. Just picture it. You're in your early 20s, you've got your whole life mapped out, all these dreams, and then you literally watch bombs fall from the sky and turn it all to dust. This question wasn't an idea. It was born right there, in the ashes of everything she knew.
So there she is, in her hometown of Trent, Italy, surrounded by pure destruction. And she and her friends have this brutal moment of clarity. Everything they'd been working towards, the careers, the families they wanted to start, the very houses they grew up in, poof, it was all gone. They realized just how fragile it all was. And that, right there, that total collapse of everything they thought mattered, that was the beginning of their real journey.
But you know, sometimes when you hit absolute rock bottom, that's when you can finally see what's really there. With everything else gone, they started asking, okay, what's left? What's the one thing that can't be destroyed? The one thing we can actually build on?
And right there, in the middle of all that rubble, they found it. Their answer. There was one thing the bombs couldn't touch. God. So these young women, they made this incredibly radical choice. They decided, okay, that's it. God is going to be the ideal of our life. He would be their everything, the one and only foundation they'd ever need.
Now, this wasn't just some vague, distant idea of a creator. Nope, their discovery was way more personal, way more specific. They landed on this truth. God isn't just loving, God is love. That's his very nature. And that simple but world-changing idea, that became what Pope John Paul II would later call the inspiring spark for a whole new movement, the Focolare, all centered on unity. Okay, but let's be real. The word love gets thrown around for everything from pizza to soulmates, right? So to really get what they discovered, we need to dig into the kind of love they were talking about. The early Christians had a word for it, agape. And honestly, the best way to understand it is through a few powerful images.
These images really make this huge idea feel, well, real. So think of it like this. First, a bridegroom who is so in love that he sees only beauty, no matter what. Then picture a mother whose arms are always open, always ready to welcome you home, completely forgetting whatever you did wrong. And finally, a shepherd who thinks you, just one person, are so incredibly valuable that he'd leave the other 99 behind just to come find you. See? This isn't a love you earn. It's total, it's unconditional, and it's aimed right at you.
And this, right here, this is the absolute key. This kind of love, agape, it's not just something God has, like a quality or a tool he pulls out. No, this love is what God is. It's his very essence. So when you experience this love, you're not just getting a piece of God, you're experiencing his very nature. So, okay, if you're faced with a love that huge, what do you do? I mean, what's the natural response? It's not just to tick off a list of rules, right? It's to have a relationship. And that relationship, in its absolute deepest sense, is what this spirituality calls prayer. And this is a really important distinction to make. We tend to think of prayers as the things we do, right? Reciting words, going through motions. But prayer, in this sense, is the relationship itself. It's a state of being with God. It's the difference between just doing an activity and actually having a connection. And the cool thing is, this relationship isn't some rigid, one-size-fits-all deal. It plays out in all kinds of ways. You can offer up your daily grind or your struggles. You can pray with other people in a community. You can just find a quiet moment to listen. Or you can actively team up with God by asking for his help. It's this living, breathing connection. Okay, this all sounds great in theory, but does it actually work? I mean, when the rubber really meets the road, when you're facing your own personal bombs falling, does this idea of God as love hold up? Let's take a look at a couple of real-life stories.
So this is Mike and Jeanette. Their 4-year-old son, John, was diagnosed with a terminal brain tumor. I mean, can you even imagine that kind of pain? But in the face of that absolute nightmare, they held on to one single thing as their anchor. They decided, we have to believe in the love of God no matter what. And they didn't just decide this for themselves, they wanted to live it for their son.
And what's just incredible is how that belief gave them all this profound sense of peace. Even little John. Get this, the Make-A-Wish Foundation brought him a gift he'd been wanting, and he just looked at it, completely calm, and said, "No thanks, I'm going home now." He told his parents that Jesus and Mary were there with him. I mean, that kind of peace for a 4-year-old, it's just beyond words.
Or how about Caitlin's story? She's just 14 years old, diagnosed with Crohn's disease, and ends up stuck in the ICU for months. Now, that could have easily been seen as a complete tragedy, an ordeal. But she made a different choice. She decided attitude is the difference between an ordeal and an adventure. And she chose adventure, trusting that there was a bigger plan at work.
And that one choice changed everything. Instead of just being swallowed up by her own suffering, Caitlin decided to be a pillar of strength for her family. She even put up Bible verses on her hospital room door. And people said, the nurses, the doctors, that when they walked into her room, they felt this real sense of peace, like Jesus was actually present right there with her.
So, we've seen the initial discovery, we've unpacked this idea of agape love, and we've seen how it holds up under the most extreme pressure. But what's the ultimate point? Where does this all lead? Well, it all boils down to one simple, powerful secret.
Think about it. When Jesus was asked to boil down all his teachings into one thing, this was it: love one another. And it's not just another rule to follow, it's the natural result of everything else. If you really, truly believe that God is love, and that he loves you like crazy, what else can you do but turn around and give that same love to the people around you?
And this is where it gets really deep. This idea of mutual love isn't just a nice thought. It's a mirror of the very nature of God himself. The Trinity, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, is a relationship of perfect mutual love. So when we love each other, we're not just being nice, we're literally tapping into and participating in the very life of God. How amazing is that?
So that kind of leaves us with this one big question to chew on. We usually think of power as a force, right? Something that shatters and destroys. But what if the greatest power in the entire universe isn't a force at all, but a relationship? What if the most indestructible thing isn't a bomb, but a bond? Not a force you can control, but a relationship of love you can live in. Now that is a discovery that no bomb can ever destroy.